Why Left Christianity Part 3, Monetary Hypocrisy Part 2. So I didn't initially plan on making two parts, but I saw it was getting really long, and there was another part of that I wanted to go into. But I already covered the building part of it, how much money is spent on the buildings that doesn't need to get used. So kind of finishing up on that. My home church in Cabot, Arkansas, First Baptist Church of Cabot. Another thing that the Christian church did in that case there in bad taste is they built a new youth building, which was completely unnecessary because they had plenty of space to bring youth kids into. But they built it right across from just a really poor neighborhood. And I specifically remember this because directly across the street, within throwing distance, is a house that has a tarp for a garage door. The windows are all messed up, and they just got tarps over the windows. It's looking all dilapidated and stuff. A bunch of trash in the yard. And this is like multiple houses. It's in a very poor part of town, which was, in theory, supposed to be a way to reach them. But of course, they don't feel welcomed there because right outside their window, they have this massive new 2024 state-of-the-art youth building with flat screen TVs, strobe lights inside of there. And it's like, why, bro? Why are we doing this? And it's used like once a week on Wednesdays for youth. And the funny thing is, on Wednesdays, most of the rest of the church isn't even being used. So you could just, use the rest of the church for the youth. Just pick a room, just a big, oh my gosh, there's so many areas that they could use for youth. But the reason I heard for it while I was there as a youth worship leader is that they needed a designated part for the youth so that they could clearly see where to go, because they didn't want to have to use a bunch of signage and all that. They wanted to have a designated youth area. It was like, why? Why can't we share the same space? And it's just like, well, because it's fun to build stuff. At the end of the day is the reason. But it's like, it's just bad taste to do that. It's not something Jesus would do. And they know that, but they don't care that much, because they don't think like that. They think we have this money, so we might as well. They just look within the budget instead of rebudgeting. Anyways, on a different note of monetary hypocrisy is when it comes to salaries. Was Jesus on salary as a teacher, as a pastor, anything like that? No. No, he was on salary as a carpenter. That was how he made all his money. And I get that you need some positions, in the church, but you only need them in the sense that you need them in the modern world, Like you need an accountant, to manage the donations and stuff. But how many of the other jobs do you actually need? Like, think about all the jobs that could just be done just in people's homes, separate from the church. Because I would go there throughout the week to look and see what they're doing. I have meetings and stuff. And they're just pretty much sitting there at their desk, just having meetings and stuff. You don't need a giant building to do that. You can just do that in your houses. What do you think they did in the old days? Just, hey, come over to the house, we can talk about stuff. Talking about, oh, you need a mailing location for the donations? Pick someone's house or get a P.O. box. It's that simple. You just buy a little lot, you make a big tent there on Sundays, and boom, you got a church. What do you need a big building for? You're paying for air conditioning, upkeep, cleaning, maintenance, all the time. That's people's tithes. That's people's salaries that they're spending on you to do that, to keep your light bulbs on in your church, to mop your floors, when it's only being used once a week. Bruh. You don't need to do that. You don't really need any. I mean, you could even argue for the necessity of any of these people's salaries. Like, Jesus wasn't on salary as a pastor. Based on what I've seen pastors do, I can assure you they don't need to be on salary that badly. They're a representative figure for the church, but in terms of their workload, Most of what they do just consists of preparing their 45-minute talk on Sundays, which doesn't really take that long because you can reuse a lot of your stuff from 2 years ago, and then meeting with people within the church, meeting with members. How much time does it actually take, you know? Like, I'm working a full-time job right now, 40-ish, 50-ish hours a week, and I was just surprised with how much free time I have. Because if you properly allocate your time, there's plenty of time to do stuff outside of your job. And think about all the money that you're not going to be taking from people within the church just to put new tires on your car. Like, you're saving all that money. And you can just divvy up the responsibilities between people anyways. Then they can do it on their free time too. You don't got to be paying all these people to do this job full time, because that's people's money that they're spending on you to sit at your desk and send out emails to people for arranging choir rehearsals and stuff like that. Which, again, is that really necessary? I don't know. Do you really need to have a worship pastor, or can you just have a guy playing guitar? Does he really need to be on salary that badly? I don't know. I wouldn't argue that they're bringing that much more value, because the value is already there, right? All you got to do is be together. That's it. You don't even need to technically have worship. So, all of these things that you have in a church may seem like, oh, they obviously need to be there. But for those Christians watching this, I encourage you to question why. Why do we need any of this? Think about people that volunteer. Can we not just be a church made up of volunteers? Can we not just use people that are retired full time to kind of be the basis for the church, instead of spending millions of dollars on salaries, and instead putting that money back into the community to people that actually need it? You know? Food for thought. Please think about this. Please question why you're doing all this with your money. Because it's a lot of money.